How's everybody doing?
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
Trying to multitask. I'm pulling up my my attempted solution to the
Cool.
problem, but I can't talk and look for it at the same time, unfortunately.
Okay.
There we go.
Well, so that's a good place we can start. Who all has an attempt or is willing to walk through a solution or what they have, or just talk about it?
Gosh, I'm just looking at this for the first time in a few days, so I have one, but if somebody else wants to, that's fine too. There we go.
Looks like you've been nominated.
Oh, I have? I didn't, I wasn't even watching. Okay. All right, this is gonna be a little clumsy because I'm just trying to remember what I did. I did this a few days ago.
No worries.
Should I share my screen?
Yeah, go ahead and share your screen and just walk us through it, and yeah, we'll take it from there.
Yeah, and then we'll find all the holes in it. Okay. Okay, so can you see this?
Yep.
You can. Okay, good. So this is the function I did a couple quick checks. So I checked to see if the string was length 0. If it's an empty string, just return true. Another quick check. What was this one? Oh, I think this one, just ignore this one. I probably should have taken that one out. Then what I did was counted the left and the right brackets. I'm just reading my comment, but okay. So split the string into an array where each character is a different element in the array. Create a, I've been doing Python, it's not a dictionary, it's an object called counts, an empty object, and then brackets is an empty array. For loop, we go through every character that's in that array and get the current count of the left and the right brackets. So let's see, this if statement is if the current character is a left bracket, then we're going to update we're going to create a, whatever you'd call it, in that object, L for left. And so L is either going to be 0 if we don't already have it, or it's, let's see. Oh. I think that's supposed to say, I don't know. Is that supposed to say equals? Okay. Okay. So it's either the value that's already stored for left, or it's 0 if we don't have one yet. And then you add 1 to it. Same thing for the right bracket. And then you end up with, I have a console.log in here, which obviously we don't need, but if at any point during this for loop, the right brackets outnumber the left brackets, then we return false. And then at the end, if, oh boy, so I have this return, okay, so then we say, so after we go through the whole for loop, we do all the iterate, or the full iteration, then if the counts of left and right are equal, then we're good, we return true, otherwise we would return false. That's all I have. Hopefully I didn't miss too much, but it worked with the ones that I tried.
Okay. Do you have like a test case, or can you run it with, let me throw this into chat. Let's do
The chat, let's see. Where's the chat? Chat. Why am I not finding the chat? I have a lot of things open. Let me try to close some things so I can, oh no. Okay, I see all of you. I'm sorry, I just don't see the chat. Because why?
Right.
I don't know why.
Oh, if you're sharing your screen, you have to kind of click the green thing and then go to view options and hit chat.
All right.
If you-
Okay.
Yeah. All right. I Discorded if you couldn't find it, but if you got it.
Okay, yeah, so that one won't work.
Does can anybody tell why that one might not work for her solution?
Would that be because when... Oh, I was like looking for the solution in another...
I know, I'm trying to get back to it. I'm sorry. Where was
Yeah, that's all right. Would it be because you would hit the return false before, you would hit that first condition so you would hit line 27 and it would return false before it had the final count, in which case it wouldn't return false. It would return true, right? Is that right?
I don't think it's actually going to return false. I think it would return true. So to test that, I guess I could.
Can you just pass that into the function and log it, maybe?
Yeah, but then I've got to get, according to my knowledge, I'd have to get some web page open and then just open up the inspect. Like the way I did it when I was testing it was I just copied and pasted into a console.
Oh.
What were you thinking?
If you, let's see, what would be the easiest way to do this? If you go to, here, I'll shoot another link in here.
Oh my God, I have to find the chat again. There it is. Okay. Oh, that's a good idea.
Oh, wait, I think I typed that wrong. Gosh dang.
But I know what it is, I think. It should be REPL.
.it. I missed the T.
Okay. Is that it? No. That's
IT. Yeah. But no JS. I messed that up too. I didn't know if it was going to redirect you.
Okay. What do you mean put Node.js?
Up at the top where it says /node or /languages, now /node.
Oh.
Just put JS at the end. No dot though. Just
Oh, sorry.
yeah. Here, I'll put it back
We're
in the
off
chat.
to a slow
If
start.
anybody else is trying to. Languages.node.js. That's what I get for trying to do it off the top of my mind. Yeah, and just paste your code in there.
Okay.
Yep, and then you can just call the function down below, like 33, and just pass it.
Oh, true. Okay.
Yep.
And what did you say? And I want to
Run.
log this, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Oops.
Looks okay. Yep. Go ahead and run it.
Yeah, okay, so run, okay. Wait, like,
Okay, that's
I know why.
right.
Yeah, okay.
But I think so. Let's do. I'm just pulling off my testing criteria.
Yeah, I think if we,
So is it returning false because at the third bracket, the left brackets outnumber the right brackets?
no, it's the same number of left and right. I
But
think
doesn't
might,
it go from left to right? How is the computer counting it?
yeah, it's gonna count it from left to right because you're, iterating through from start to end.
So at one point, the third bracket, the number of right brackets will outnumber the left ones. So it would return false at that point, right?
Oh, yes, you're right. You're absolutely right. I'm sorry, Lucia. Yes. So that's why. Yep.
Okay, one more. Try that.
Oh, there it is.
Okay. Let's see.
Is that returning false for the same reason?
Yeah, it's turning false as the counts don't match, but
Yeah, I think so, Lucia. If I think so.
the counts do match. It's the weird case with this is that
I think what Lucia is saying is that you have the left bracket before hello, and then you have two right brackets. So right then, wait, it didn't fail right then though, did it?
no, it's running the whole thing. It's just I don't know where.
Huh, isn't that weird?
I
It
think
didn't,
it's online. I could have sworn
that was weird.
because it
Oh.
should be returning true, right?
Oh,
It's
I
just
know why,
ended
yeah,
a little bit soon.
Well,
Yeah, so
no, it should be false. It's getting the right answer. I'm just looking at the output and going that it's
Yeah.
failing for the wrong reason.
Oh,
No, I think
okay,
it's-
yeah, I
I
didn't
think it's
see
failing.
see that.
I think it's failing for the right reason. I just realized. So it's whether there's a bracket there or a letter there, it's printing out the counts object. So the first one, it says left 1. Okay, that makes sense because the first one is a bracket. And then it goes through 5 for hello before you get a right bracket. And then as soon as it hits the second right bracket, now the right brackets outnumber the left brackets. And it fails. Or returns false, I guess I should say. Am I seeing that right, Lucia? Is that what you're seeing too?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Who else has one of these before we put a spin on it?
I think I got one to work,
Okay.
but I just came up with it like right before the workshop, and I'm sure it's good. There's got some test cases that are not passing, but I'll run through it.
Okay.
Okay. Cool. Are you guys able to see that?
Yep.
Okay, so essentially, I'm going to be putting the string and putting in all of the opening or closing brackets into an array and working with that array. So I start off with an empty array called brackets. And then I'm going to be counting the number of opening and closing, and this will do a quick check later. If they're not matching, it's an automatic fail. But for now, I have those declared at top. Here is my iteration through the string. This first for loop will iterate through the string. Again, if it's a opening or closing bracket, it will push it to the array called brackets, and also tally the count for the amount of open and closed. So as soon as that loop is over, we're going to check, all right, are the number of opening brackets and closing brackets matching? And if they are not, then it's an automatic fail. So that's I'm at line 18 now. And now that I have my array of just opening and closing brackets in the order that they appear in the original string, I will iterate through that. And the moment that this is kind of what I was getting to the previous week. I just couldn't really explain it into words, but the moment that I get to a closing bracket here, I will make sure to take that one out and the previous one. Here, you can see that it's line 20. So I take both that one and the previous one, because the moment that you come across that first closing bracket, the one right before that needs to be an opening bracket. So I pop those out and then reset the string to I = 0 and go through it again, right? So that's going to be popping out all of those pairs. And at the end, if you had to have gone through all of them, and if at the end you still are left over with an amount inside of the array that is greater than 0, if not all of the closing brackets were matched with the previous one, then it is a false. Otherwise, it was true, and all of the closing brackets found a matching opening bracket just before that one.
So where you said you were running some test criteria, where wasn't it passing, or where was it?
Oh, so far, if you have those test criteria, I can put them in real quick.
Yeah, just toss the 2 that I threw into chat.
Okay, so I have that one, the hello world one right here.
Oh, okay.
Here.
Cool.
That's the last one that ran. That one ran false.
Yeah.
And some test cases that I was writing myself. The top one is the easiest one, opening and closing, true. The second one is 2 closing after an opening, false. And so far, like I said, they've all been passing correctly as predicted. But yeah, it's kind of a really roundabout way of doing it, but it's just to make sure that all the closing ones have
Right.
a opening bracket just before that one character.
Okay. Cool. Anyone else? Or I can throw a twist on this, and we can talk about it for 10 minutes or so.
Hello? I did the problem.
Yeah, you want to share?
Actually, I'm on my phone, so I took
Okay.
a screenshot of my solution. Can I
Okay.
share it on the chat?
Yeah, I got it.
I sent it on the chat.
Yep. Okay, so this is similar in counting the brackets.
Yes. So if we have one open and then close, it's gonna cancel themselves out. So I could just use one number called counter to do that?
Yep. Cool. All right. So I'll share a solution that's a little bit different than what was given here, and then we'll talk about a twist on this. Okay. Goodness. Enhance. Can I blow that up? There we go. All right. Oh, too big. All right. So this, and what I want to kind of touch on here, in case it hasn't come up in anything you guys have been doing yet, and why it applies to interviewing, is this particular problem. There's a data structure. I don't know if you guys have come across a stack yet, but this is a common problem for just implementing a stack. So although there's other ways to solve it, sometimes and I didn't specify that you had to use any data structure. A lot of the questions that you'd get in a technical interview have some implied data structure, and I'm trying not to weigh too heavy on data structures because I plan on dedicating an entire 4 weeks of a workshop just to data structures and algorithms. But just so everybody can kind of see what this would look like, the basis of a stack is it's like a last in, first out. So you can imagine like a stack of anything. Here, it's like a stack of Mountain Dew cans. This is embarrassing, but a stack of Mountain Dew cans, and when I add something onto it, it goes on top, and then when I remove something, I take the last thing that I put, and then when I take another thing off of it, I'm going to take the next thing, which was the thing before the last thing I put on there, and eventually I get back to the bottom, and then I take that off the stack, and I have an empty stack. So what you can imagine is as you're going through and walking that string, every time you encounter a parenthesis, which is what we're doing here. So we have our stack, which in this case can just be represented by an empty array. We loop through the string, we check if we have an open bracket, and we push that onto the stack. So we're able to use just regular array methods because that's how an array push and pop operates. So we push that onto the stack, and then if we encounter the closing one, we pop it, and if it's not equal to the matching one, we're done. Because and if it does, we just keep going. And the last thing we have to do, which I saw a lot of folks doing, is check and make sure the stack is empty at the end and we don't have any left over. And so that's just another way to approach it. And the reason I bring that up is the twist to this is, is basically to be able to not just handle parenthesis, but to handle angle brackets, braces, and quotation marks. So if I was to say, to give a string like this, which is a JavaScript function, you'd be able to identify, it would identify if this was missing. Basically, if this was a valid string, by checking and making sure that all angle brackets lined up, all parentheses lined up, all curly braces lined up, and all quoted strings lined up. So that's kind of the next piece to this. If we wanted to move forward and see what I would say is to look at your solutions and say, what would I need to do in order to enhance my solution to be able to account for all these different symbols. So now, these four or five additional, let's see, how many is it? It's only 3 additional symbols, and make sure that they're matching. Where this kind of plays, nice into the stack is that popping and pushing and always checking, because now we're not just looking at what a known value is, that is going to be a closing parenthesis, but we need to know, does it match whatever is next on the stack, which should correlate with its opposite. So if I run into a closing one, the next thing I pop off the stack should be the opening one. So we can, I don't know what people prefer, if they prefer to work on things on their own, or if they would prefer to group think on them, or if they prefer to just watch me go through them and explain them. So please shout out a preference. I want to talk about the soft interview questions as well. But let me know. Do folks want to take a stab at this on their own, or do you want to see what this would look like and go through more of the solution I have on my side? What do people think is going to be most valuable?
I think it's best that we did what we did last week, where we just talk about it in a group, and then where it's okay, they're sort of going left when they should be going right, and then you're okay, let's pull it back together. I think it's better when I think we're all beginners. We're all just throwing ideas out there instead of just looking straight at the solution.
Okay. So yeah, we can spend. Does anybody want to volunteer what they had to see what to take a look at it and talk about what we would need to do to allow it to work with all these symbols and handle a string like that function string?
I have an idea.
Yeah. Go ahead, shoot.
So the way I did the first problem is to use a counter similar to a stack you did. So to handle multiple symbols, we just need to have multiple counters or stack for each of them.
That's one way, yeah. I think that the feedback you'd get with that is that every time you have to add a new symbol, you have to add a new counter, which is a lot of work in maintenance. And they'd probably ask, is there a better way that you could solve it than having to add a new counter every time?
Yeah, that's my confusion about this, because I cannot think of a way that would require me to basically hard code 3 different functions into one function.
So which symbols are we looking for? Is it just symbols in general, like the curly braces and then the greater than or less than equal to signs?
Yeah, in general, it would be to expand this to say what is I already have it there. Write the function so that you could make it could handle any symbol. You may need to change something very slightly, but again, minimizing how much of the function actually has to change in order for it to accompany one additional symbol. So right now we named the angle braces, the parenthesis, the curly braces, and the quotes as being all of the symbols. But maybe somebody the function should be built in a way so that if I said, oh yeah, and you also have to handle like, I don't know, open and closing question marks or something, or like a question mark is an opening and a asterisk is a closing. Like, what's the most, like, what's the lead, like, what would a function look like that would require like almost no changes to be able to handle that? There'd have to be a change because you'd have to tell it about a like that this is a new starting point and this is a new ending for that starting point, but without having to like manipulate multiple parts of the program.
I think I got a. I think I have two. Oh, okay. I think I have two solutions in mind. So first, what we can use. I'm not sure. I don't think it'll be as expensive because it's still O of n. We can have multiple frequency counters for each one, and we can have a start and a close and count up the start and close. But again, I don't think that will work because they can be opposite of each other, right? And then we can probably have 2 pointers. If this is a big string, we could probably have 2 pointers at the end and see if actually I'm not sure because I like what the previous person was talking about with his solution. However, that still doesn't account for the fact that it's like the first original test case where I remember where the parentheses were opposite of each other, right?
Could you add 2 variables and then soft code those in the place of the brackets?
Like here, like checking the opening and closing is what you're referring to?
Yeah, and then you need to add the variable, of course, into as a parameter into bracket matcher, both of them.
So we're getting there with having to like swap out this for a different type of check against a hard-coded value, but we wouldn't necessarily need to pass anything in, and it wouldn't be a one-off. I mean, I can kind of walk through what I have for this if folks are interested, and we can
I got one more question. You said
Yeah.
that having multiple counters will be expensive, but would having multiple frequency counters be expensive? Like, say if we like had our own little off function, we'll be looping through it, but it'll be own separate loops, right? So it'll be O of n plus O of m plus O of x, like, right? So we can like spread that out, and it simplifies to still O of n, so it wouldn't still be that expensive. If that makes any sense. Like we can have a counter for, let's say, like the closing and the opening bracket, and then we can set that to its own variable, or we can. I'm not sure if y'all use JavaScript. We could spread that within the parameter and sort of set that into its own little variable, and then go within it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I feel like though with the like if you go with individual counters, you add like an additional symbol, wouldn't it require adding like another like counter to count those, and then you'd have to have another check? How are you going to do the check as you're going to increment or decrement that counter? Is that going to be like another conditional, or how are you going to do that?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Either another conditional or have another off function, so it could be split up into 3 functions. Have another off function to where it's like the opening is just the opening in general, and the closing is just the closing in general.
Then I think you may run into the problem of mismatched Like what if you have like an opening curly bracket and then you have a closing
Yeah, exactly.
parentheses right after that? That
Yeah.
would pass that case, but it wouldn't actually like, I don't know. So so I modified mine. I'm not sure if it'll work, but basically I just changed my conditional to check. So I got rid of the counter because I realized it's not really necessary. Because that second method is checking to make sure that at the end there is nothing left over. But then so I did have to add 3 different conditionals to check for the new characters. I don't know if it can be done without doing that.
It can.
Okay. Yeah. So
yeah. So,
Yeah.
do you want to?
yeah, I can show it real quick. I have it.
Yeah.
I have it written.
Okay.
I don't think I can. Oh yeah, here we go. Yeah. So again, I got rid of the counters now because they're not really necessary. The final check is being done right here in the body of the check. So again, if you have a closing parentheses, it's gonna check to make sure that the one previous to that was a opening parentheses and then pop those 2 out. This is popping both the closing and the opening parentheses and resets it. And then now this, if it's a closing bracket, opening, and then it checks for the opening and closing bracket, and then this is the less than greater symbol, and then this is for the curly braces. But it's all doing the same thing. It's popping them out at the end. If there is anything left over, then it's false. If it's 0, then it's true.
Okay. Yeah. So I get like the line to like tread in these is there's more like programming. There's many ways to like solve something. And outside of what I think it was Samuel was saying about measuring time and space complexities, which play a role. We also look at like maintainability and what I've been mentioning, like what's the effort to add one more. So we could like, I think this would work, or like based on what your, well, I guess you don't have any tests on there. Here, let me post my test. Of course, do you have all of them? Squiggly.
Yeah, I have squiggly, I have less than, I have array, brackets, and parentheses.
Do a quote.
Okay.
And then there's the,
Okay. Give me 1 second. I don't know how, anyway. No, that's not running. Just 1 sec. True.
I'll drop one of the quotes just around this as a text. Because that should be true, but if we just break it, we're like dropping one of the quotes around.
Quotes or parentheses?
One of the quotes, like, did you?
It's not checking for quotes.
Oh, okay. Then drop.
I could do it real quick.
Okay.
Let's see.
They're single quotes.
You want me to do single quotes?
Yeah.
Okay, and then drop one of these.
Yeah.
This top one should run true. This bottom one should run false. Oh. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's because I know why. Because this is not this is not like identifiable as a opening or a closing, so it's
Yeah.
automatically like dropping this thing here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's sort of the
Fail.
the interesting case with that one. So yeah, I'd say if folks feel like giving that a try, the quote one is going to be the interesting edge case because the opening and the closing are the same symbol. So you can't just check like if it's there and then check what the other one is, because the first time you encounter it, by that logic, you'd be looking, you could like take that as the closing one and see that there's nothing there. So you have to know that's the opening one. Same thing with the closing one. You have to know that's the closing one. So how do you do that? Cool. Any other questions on this particular challenge? We can toss in a couple easier ones. I wanted to get these just out of the way because we can whip through these real quick. But they're good to just know that you can do. So this one, so this is the typical reverse a string. So is everybody familiar in how to do this in JavaScript pretty easily? So if I have, I don't know, let's do Apple, PLE, this is my string, and I have a function. I don't even need a function. Like how could I say let reverse something that would give me that string reversed? Anyone familiar with or want to take a stab at that real quick?
Did you do like, I guess, split it into an array and then shift each? Didn't do like a loop. I'm sure there's a better way, but then do a loop where you iterate through, and for each one, instead of pushing it onto a new empty array, you would shift, I think it's shift it on, so then it's coming from the beginning.
Yep, there's an easier way. There's a built-in array method called reverse.
Oh, I thought,
Yeah.
I thought it meant we couldn't use that one. Okay.
Nope, never said you couldn't. Anything's fair game until they tell you like, don't. What you might get, you might get this a lot with like, if you try and use built-in sorting algorithms, they might say, well, do you know the runtime complexity of that? Like, so you might get a question of like, do you know what that's actually doing under the surface? So if you have like a way to explain, well, this is what I would do if I couldn't do it. Most people will give you a pass and be like, okay, well, you can just use the built-in ones, because a lot of them, this is what they're doing under the covers anyways. So they're just utility functions. Yeah, so this is going to take an array, reverse it. So then we only have to do one other thing after this. which is to get the array back into a string.
Then we just join it
Yeah.
back together.
Yep. So, oh gosh, what did I do? Missing. Why is that?
Oh, it's because you ain't got a. Yeah, there you go.
I don't think so. It should be. Okay, I don't know why it's like underscored. Upload having a bad day, but there we go. There's our reverse string. Cool. So the next one is anagrams. This is also just a fun little one that. Yeah, you may get these questions, especially like being new. These are just simply like, how well do you know the language, and do you know like little nuances? So the anagram one, given two strings, return true if they're anagrams of one another. So anagram meaning you can use all the same. They use all the same letters, but they're in different order, so they say different words. I have some test cases because I looked up some anagrams, so I actually knew that this would work. Where's my test cases? Here we go. So here, and we'll want a function called anagram that's going to take two words, and we're going to do something with it. And then we've got some test cases here. So listen should, in silent, should be equal. Elbow and below should be equal. Stressed and desserts is equal, but like dog and cat, those are obviously false. So thoughts
on this one, I mean, do you want me to take a? Well, I've done this before, like actually yesterday. So I mean, if you care about the, like, I don't want to, just blurt it out. So
all right, anybody else want to take a stab at this?
It's good though.
Yeah.
Once y'all get into data structures and algorithms, if you guys are in Springboard, then you guys. I was just.
Or if Samuel wants to put his out, I can propose a twist. But I realize you want to get to the soft part of the interviewing today. So.
Yeah, we'll see if we can. Yeah. Anyone? Otherwise, I toss it in there. I have Sam. Yeah, just go for it, Sam.
All right, cool. So this is pretty much what I was talking about for the frequency counter. So pretty much you can create like a separate function. What I would use is a map, because in general it's just way faster than more efficient than a object. So pretty much for each word, you just set the word to so say if you have your function, or can I share my screen?
Yeah, you can take it.
Yeah. How do I do that? All right. Let's just screen. How do I just share a specific screen? Okay, there it is. All right, do y'all see the screen?
Yep.
All right. Okay. Well, we'll just. Oop. So.
Rather clean desktop. Impressive.
Don't worry about all this. Yeah, don't worry about all the stuff to the left. I can't full screen it I can move it, but I can't type in it for some reason. Yeah, I think my VS Code just gave up on me. Oh. Oh. All right, there we go. Okay, so pretty much what we want to do is first we can pass in our string 1, string 2. And then what I was saying right here is that we can just create our own separate function called like a frequency counter. And this accepts its own string. And then right here, we can either use an object or a map, but I'm just going to use a map. So we can set this const frequent to a new map. And then once we want, what we want to do with this string, we want to create our map with it, right? So what we can do right here, we can loop through this string, like every letter we want to create its own key and value, and we want the value to be the number of occurrences that that letter is having in the string, right? So pretty much what we're going to be doing is comparing if it has the same amount of frequencies. So let's key of string. And now right here, we want to set our own little variable to count the number of occurrences that's happening. So we can do that with, let's do let key counter equal gets freak dot. Then we can do get because we want to get it, or if it's not there, we'll just set it to 0. But if it is, we want to set it, right? So frequency dot set. Then we want to set our initial letter. So we want to set it to K. And then we want, what do we want the value to be? We want it to be the counter itself. So K counter plus 1, because we want to increment every time we see a letter, right? So just to make sure that's working, counter. Again, oh, because I'm not returning it back. Okay, yeah. So we're getting 1 Y and then an O. So that's good. So now what we can do right here is, so if the strings, we can create a little check case right here to see if the strings aren't equal in length. Obviously, they're not going to be an anagram. So we can do if string 1 dot length does not equal string 2 dot length. We can just straight up return. We're returning a Boolean, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we can just straight up return false. Okay, so now that we're returning false, we want to check to see if it has the same value, right? We want to check to see if it has the same K counter and the same key. Okay, so what we're gonna do, we want to loop over. Okay, hold on. I'm going above myself right here. So first we want to get the frequency of every string. So let's do let, we can do string 1 freq equal, and then we want to pass in our frequency counter right here. And this is what I was talking about before with HY. I can't really pronounce your name, forgive me. But you can loop individually, and that still gives you a good runtime. So it still simplifies to O event. So you can do freq counter string 1, right? And then let string 2 freq equal frequency counter string 2, right? And then just to make sure that it's working, I always do this just out of habit. And then I just log it to make sure it's working. And, yeah. Am I doing? Yeah, we shouldn't be. Oh, there we go. Okay, so that's working. And now see the second one's working. Okay, that's working too. What if we have Bill? I mean, let's just comment this out real quick. Okay, we got 8 eyes. Okay, cool. So now what we're gonna do, we can loop through either or of the string frequency counters to see if the values match up. So I'm just gonna loop through the first one because it's the first. So we want to take every key value of the string 1 frequency. So every one of that, we should be getting, okay, yep, that's what we're getting. Or actually we should be dot, I believe it's dot keys. Log K. Okay, yeah. Okay, now we just want the keys. We straight up want the keys because we're going to be using the get method within a map to get the actual value. So we can check if the string 1 frequency dot get of the K is equal to, because we want to compare 1 and 2, 2 and 3, right? If it equals the same one of string 2 dot get, same thing, right? We can just return true, else we can just return false. So I think that should work. Bob, that should be true. Cat, dog, should be false. Dog, anagram, Billy. And then we can do if it's straight up just if they straight up just don't have the same length, then it's automatically going to be false. So yeah, I think that works.
Yeah. So there's a few things. Can you, without VS Code yelling, can you like make it a little bit taller so we can get all the code in one spot? Yeah, cool. Yeah, a couple things I wanted to call out here with what he did. That's generally good practice in these types of interviews. So one is he communicated the whole time he was doing that. I feel like everybody was able to hopefully keep up with, or at least understand his thought process as he was talking through everything. So keep that in mind when you're doing these problems and how you'd explain and get your thoughts out. That's super important. Two, as you mentioned, building out separate functions. So every question that you're going to get, every question I'm going to propose is going to start off with like, write a function called, XYZ that does something. That doesn't mean that you can't build out other functions. And in a lot of ways, a lot of times you should be building out other functions to take and handle certain functionality that your main function is going to need. So that's pretty common. In this case, he built this utility function that handles counting the frequencies, and he just, in his main anagram function, just calls that, and that does all the heavy lifting, and he's able to like pull that logic out and test it independently. As we saw, he used console log just to do some quick tests, almost like unit testing, but to verify that like, hey, this function handles this one thing, and it's doing what it needs to do, so I can count that portion of my project like good and bug free generally as you start to build the whole thing out. What else was there here? He referred to a lot the checking the lengths at the front. So that's guard clauses. They're referred to, or short circuiting is another concept there. What it basically means is like we can exit our program early if we need to. And so sometimes there's like edge cases or certain things that you're like, all right, well, there's no point in me running any further in this program because I already know that it's not like what the result's going to be. There's nothing could happen beyond this point that could change this to be true if these lengths are different. So that's an easy way to short circuit the function and immediately return with the definite value. So those are all things to keep in mind when you're writing these functions. What I did want to share is, so this is a great answer. This is a great way to solve the problem. Fantastic job with that. Just for shiggles, I'm going to share another way that can solve this, and we can talk about it for a second. So everybody can see my screen again. Let's jump over here.
Do I need to stop sharing, or can you just take?
Yeah, folks should be able to toggle between them if we're both sharing, but I think in order for you
Okay.
to see, you have to stop sharing. But
Okay.
yeah, so basically, we can lean on similar to what I did up top here with the reverse, and basically say like reassign word to word.split, which is going to turn into an array, and then we can sort that array in place, and then we can join it back to a string. And we can do that same thing for word 2. And then we can just return word is equal to word 2. And this will accomplish the same thing as if I wrote, not word. This is word 2. That we're doing here.
I think it should be triple equals when you return.
Yeah, good job. That's what I get for trying to. There we go. And so both of these are like equally right. This relies on a lot of the array utility utility functions. Why this one works as well is what we're doing is we're essentially turning it into an array and then sorting each of the letters alphabetically. So when these strings, even though they're like out of, you can essentially picture like these two words are the same like letters, they're just out of order in both cases. So if we sort them, because letters follow like the ASCII, they have an integer value, so they can be sorted in ascending or descending order. And when we do that and then rejoin it, we end up with a string that is identical in both cases because they're going to sort out the same way. And if they aren't the same value, then these aren't going to be equal. Basically, this is just basically checking equality between the two strings. So anything that's not like the same length or more vowels or missing, letters or whatever, they're not going to be equal in the end. So this is just another way to solve it in technically like 3 lines. I don't think you can do it in any less because these need to be reassigned to another variable. But the key with this one, the takeaway here is that, and with a lot of the questions, sorting and splitting, like sorting and searching are like 2 of the big things when you start getting into programs or questions that rely heavily on data structures, or when you even start looking at these questions, it's like, how can I get my my data into a sorted order? Because anything that's sorted already can cut down your runtime. And then is there any way that I can cut my search space in half? That's where like binary search trees and stuff come into play. And we can look at some problems that encounter and use those things. But those are two things that you should always like keep in the back of your mind when you're looking and approaching problems is like, how can I potentially sort this and would that help me? And how can I potentially trim down or half my search space if I'm looking for something? So yeah, that's just another take on that one. Cool. So we're a bit over. We can hold on unless anybody's dying to share and answer the question. Tell me about yourself this week. We can jump into that next week since we spent a decent amount of time talking about problems. What I will say, let's give one for the road. I'll post this one. This is a good one that is also likely to get something similar to it. So ES6, I'm sure you've seen and worked with it, is what everybody's using it. And so a common question that you're going to get is take this function that was written without using ES6 and rewrite it using ES6 syntax. Again, just make sure you're familiar with ES6 and some of the new like map, filter, sort types of things, as well as I think understanding a function. So this might be a first one. They might say something like, explain what this is doing, and then rewrite it using ES6 and make sure they're equivalent. So I will post this one into the chat or into Discord as well for people to take a stab at. Hopefully it's familiar to anybody who's worked with the new ES6 stuff. And we can hopefully quickly review that next week. Does anybody have any questions before we break about anything today or anything at all?
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, no problem. I'll take that as a no. Okay. Well, thanks again, everybody, for hanging out. I promise next time we'll jump into questions. Again, I think the programming questions might be a little bit more helpful, but we'll definitely set up some time in the beginning to go over just some of the soft question Q&A stuff. Yeah, and open to feedback. If anybody has any, feel free to DM me. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Have a great night,
Thanks,
everybody.
Paul.
You too.
Peace out, everyone.